Admiral Zektar stood before the massive viewing screen in the council chamber of Nexus Prime. His forearms moved quickly across the control panels as data streams flowed past his yellow eyes. The numbers made his blood run cold. Every report showed the same thing. The humans were moving fast, too fast. The orbital station Nexus Prime was the largest structure ever built by the combined alien races. It floated in the empty space between star systems, serving as the meeting place for the Galactic Council. Today, representatives from 17 different species had gathered for an emergency session. "Show them the reports," Zektar said to his aide. His voice carried the authority of someone who had fought in 100 battles, across 50 worlds. The lights dimmed as holographic displays filled the air above the council table. Maps showed the outer rim territories where human ships had been spotted in increasing numbers over the past few months. Red dots marked human settlements. Blue lines showed their shipping routes. Yellow triangles indicated their military bases. Commander Valencia of the Catherian Defense Force studied the display with her large, silver eyes. Her people were known for their careful planning and defensive strategies. She had been tracking human movements for weeks. "They started with 3 systems," she said in her soft musical voice. "Now they control 12. Their expansion rate has increased by 300% in just 2 standard months." Murmurs of concern rippled through the council chamber. The assembled aliens represented the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. The blue-skinned Kitharanes with their advanced technology. The massive Vorthak with their powerful military. Fleets, the elegant Celestials with their ancient wisdom. All of them had reasons to fear human expansion. "How many ships do they have?" asked Fleet Admiral Rothenham of the Celestial Republic. His tall, thin frame made him tower over the other delegates. Golden skin caught the light from the displays. As he leaned forward, Ekatar pulled up another set of data. "Our intelligence suggests they have over 8,000 combat vessels. Their fleet grows larger every month. They build ships faster than any race we have ever encountered." The numbers were staggering. Most alien races took years to construct a single warship. Humans seemed to build them in weeks. Their industrial capacity was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. What about their technology? This question came from Science Director Quintal of the Research Coalition. Her insectoid features showed deep concern. "Our scouts report that human weapons have improved significantly since first contact." Valencia activated a new display. Battle footage from recent skirmishes filled the air. Human ships moved with deadly precision, their weapons cutting through alien defenses like they were made of paper. Their tactics showed a level of coordination that impressed even veteran military officers. "Watch this section," Valencia said, pointing to one particular engagement. 3 human cruisers against 8 of our destroyers. They destroyed 5 enemy ships and disabled the other 3 without taking any significant damage. The Council members watched in silence as the humans demonstrated their combat abilities. Their ships worked together like a single organism. When one vessel was damaged, the others immediately moved to protect it. Their weapon systems targeted the most vulnerable points on enemy ships with surgical precision. "They learn fast," admitted Admiral Zektar. "Every battle teaches them something new. Their tactics evolve between engagements. We have never faced an enemy that adapts this quickly." Captain Jake Morrison sat in his office aboard Humanity's Reach, a large space station orbiting the 4th planet in the Alpha Centauri system. The station served as a diplomatic outpost for human operations in alien space. Jake had spent 5 years working to build relationships with the various alien species. His communication console beeped with an incoming priority message. Jake accepted the transmission and watched as the official seal of the Galactic Council appeared on his screen. The message was formal and direct. "To the human government and military command," the message began. The Galactic Council has observed your recent expansion activities with growing concern. Your species has occupied 12 star systems without proper authorization from the governing body of this galaxy. Jake frowned as he continued reading. The tone was becoming more threatening with each paragraph. Your military buildup and aggressive expansion threatens the peace that has existed in this region for over 2 centuries. The Council demands that all human forces withdraw to your original territory within 30 standard days. Failure to comply will result in military action by the combined fleets of the Galactic Alliance. The message ended with the official seals of 17 different alien governments. Jake stared at the screen for a long moment, then activated his secure communication link to Earth Command. Back on Nexus Prime, the Council continued their discussion. The decision to issue an ultimatum had not been easy. Some members argued for immediate military action. Others suggested trying diplomacy first. 30 days should be enough time, said Admiral Rothanum. If they withdraw peacefully, we can negotiate a proper settlement agreement. If they refuse, we will have given them fair warning. Science Director Quintal was not convinced. What if this is exactly what they want? What if they are using this time to prepare for war? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Everyone in the chamber knew that humans were unpredictable. Their history showed a species capable of both great cooperation and terrible violence. They could be generous friends or deadly enemies. We must be ready for both possibilities, Zektar declared. I recommend we begin assembling our fleets immediately. If the humans choose to fight, we need to be prepared to overwhelm them quickly. The vote was unanimous. Orders went out across the galaxy to begin the largest military mobilization in recorded history. Warships from 17 different species would gather at the Kepler Junction, a strategic location that controlled access to human space. On Earth, the message from the Galactic Council was received by President Maria Santos. She read it twice before calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. Military leaders, diplomats, and scientists gathered in the secure conference room beneath the Capitol building. How many ships can we mobilize? Asked the President. General Robert Hayes, the head of Space Command, consulted his tactical display. We have approximately 6,000 combat-ready vessels. Another 2,000 in various stages of construction or repair. And the aliens? Intelligence estimates they can field between 10 and 15,000 ships. Their technology is roughly equal to ours, but they have significant advantages in numbers and experience. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. A direct military confrontation would be costly for both sides. Millions of lives would be lost in the fighting. What about our diplomatic options? Asked Secretary of State Linda Cooper. Ambassador Kevin Walsh, who had spent years working with alien governments, shook his head slowly. The Council's message was very formal. They see us as a threat that must be contained or eliminated. President Santos studied the faces around the table. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity and building a better future among the stars. The decision she made in the next few minutes would affect the course of human history. Begin preparations for fleet mobilization, she ordered. But I want our diplomatic corps to explore every possible peaceful solution. We did not come to the stars to fight wars. We came to build a better future for our children. As the meeting broke up, Ambassador Walsh remained behind. He had an idea that might prevent the coming war, but it would require taking an enormous risk. The plan was so simple that it might actually work. Or it might get them all killed. The next 30 days would determine whether humanity's future lay in conquest or cooperation. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same again. The 30 days passed like a slow countdown to war. Across the galaxy, alien fleets moved toward the Kepler Junction with grim determination. The largest armada in galactic history was taking shape in the darkness between stars. Fleet Admiral. Rothenham stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. Through the massive viewport, he could see thousands of ships stretching out in all directions. The sight would have been beautiful if it were not so deadly. Warships from 17 different species created a wall of metal and energy that spanned 3 entire star systems. "Final count, Admiral," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Zendar. The young Celestial's voice carried a mix of pride and nervousness. 12,473 combat vessels. All systems report ready for battle. Rothenham nodded slowly. In his 300 years of military service, he had never commanded such a massive force. The combined firepower under his control could destroy entire worlds. He hoped it would not come to that. "Any word from the humans?" he asked. "Nothing, sir. Our long-range sensors show no fleet movements toward our position. Intelligence reports suggest they are maintaining defensive positions around their core worlds." The Admiral studied the tactical displays that surrounded his command chair. Red dots showed human territories. Blue formations marked the positions of Alliance forces. The humans had not moved a single ship toward the Kepler Junction. Either they were planning something unexpected, or they had decided to wait for the Alliance to come to them. "Perhaps they think their defensive positions will protect them," suggested Commander Velasha. Her ship, the Silver Dawn, held position near the flagship. "Human defensive technology is impressive, but it cannot stop this many ships." Admiral Zektar's voice crackled over the communication system from his vessel, the Iron Fist. "My scouts report strange activity in human space. They are not building more warships. Instead, they seem to be constructing civilian vessels. Transport ships, medical frigates, supply haulers." This information puzzled the Alliance commanders. Why would the humans build civilian ships when facing the largest military force in galactic history? It made no strategic sense. "Maybe they plan to evacuate their colonies," suggested Science Director Quintal from her research vessel. "They might be preparing to retreat deeper into their territory." The Alliance fleet waited and waited and waited. Hours turned into days. The massive armada held its position at the Kepler Junction, while reconnaissance ships probed the edges of human space. Every report brought the same news. The humans were not mobilizing for war. Their fleets remained scattered across dozens of systems, apparently going about their normal business. On the 5th day after the deadline, something finally appeared on the Alliance sensors. A single contact, moving at standard cruising speed from the direction of human space. Long-range scans identified it as a mid-sized vessel, roughly equivalent to an exploration ship. "One ship?" Lieutenant Zendar stared at his display screen in confusion. "Sir, sensors confirm a single human vessel approaching our position." Admiral Rothenham leaned forward in his command chair. "Identification? Broadcasting as the UHS Defiance. Standard exploration class, minimal armament. Crew complement. Appears to be less than 50 individuals." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of electronic systems. Every officer stared at their screens, waiting for additional contacts to appear. Surely this had to be the advance scout for a larger fleet. No species would send a single lightly armed ship against 12,000 warships. Minutes passed. Then hours. No other human ships appeared on the sensors. "Sir," Zendara's voice was barely above a whisper. "I have attempted to contact Human Command for clarification. Their response was ... unusual." "Show me," ordered the Admiral. A holographic display activated above the tactical table. The image showed a human female in a clean, simple uniform. She appeared calm and professional, showing no signs of fear or concern despite facing overwhelming odds. "This is Captain Lisa Parker of the United Human Ship Defiance," the recording began. "We are approaching under diplomatic immunity as outlined in the Galactic Convention of 2387. We request permission to enter your formation for the purpose of formal negotiations." The message ended, leaving the Alliance commanders staring at each other in bewilderment. This was not what they had expected. Where were the threats? Where were the demands for Alliance withdrawal? Where was the legendary human aggression that had driven their expansion across the galaxy? "This has to be a trick," Admiral Zektar declared over the communication channel. "No species is this foolish. They must have something hidden." Commander Vel Asha ran detailed scans of the approaching vessel. "My sensors show no unusual energy signatures. No hidden weapon systems. No cloaked escorts. It appears to be exactly what it claims to be." "What about their other fleets?" asked Admiral Rothenham. "Have they moved any ships toward our position?" Intelligence reports came in from across the galaxy. Human fleets remained exactly where they had been for weeks. No emergency mobilizations. No secret movements. No preparations for a massive strike. The humans appeared to be going about their normal business while sending a single ship to face the greatest military force in galactic history. The UHS Defiance continued its approach, broadcasting standard navigation signals and following proper diplomatic protocols. Captain Parker appeared on communication channels several more times, each message polite and professional. She requested clearance to approach the Alliance flagship for formal negotiations. "What do we do?" asked Lieutenant Zendar. The young officer's training had not prepared him for this situation. Military doctrine covered fighting enemy fleets, not dealing with a single diplomatic vessel. Admiral Rothenham considered his options. He could destroy the human ship with a single weapon blast, but doing so would violate every principle of galactic law and diplomacy. The humans had followed proper protocols and requested formal negotiations under diplomatic immunity. "Grant them permission to approach," he decided, "but maintain full battle readiness." This could still be an elaborate deception. The order was transmitted to the entire Alliance fleet. 12,000 warships watched as the tiny human vessel glided through their formation like a small fish swimming through a school of massive predators. Every weapon system in the Armada tracked its movement, waiting for some sign of hostile intent. Captain Lisa Parker stood on the bridge of the Defiance, calmly observing the alien ships that surrounded her vessel. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, showing remarkable composure despite the circumstances. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the ship's chief xenobiologist, monitored communication channels while preparing detailed reports on the alien fleet composition. "They seem nervous," observed Commander Tony Rodriguez, the ship's tactical officer. His instruments showed thousands of weapon systems aimed directly at their ship. "They should be nervous," replied Captain Parker. "They have no idea what we are really doing here." Dr. Susan Miller, the mission's chief historian, looked up from her data pad. "The psychological profiles suggest they expected either complete human surrender or massive military retaliation. A single diplomatic vessel was not in their calculations." The Defiance reached the designated coordinates near the Alliance flagship. Captain Parker opened a channel to Admiral Rothenham and formally requested permission to come aboard for negotiations. Her words were calm and respectful, showing proper diplomatic courtesy. "Permission granted," came the Admiral's reply after a long pause. "You will be escorted under guard to the council chambers. Any hostile action will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel." "Understood, Admiral," Captain Parker responded. "We come in peace, seeking dialogue rather than conflict." As the human delegation prepared to board the alien flagship, Admiral Rothenham found himself facing questions he had never considered. Why had the humans sent only one ship? What could they possibly hope to accomplish against such overwhelming odds? And most disturbing of all, why did they seem so confident? The answers to these questions would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human nature and change the course of interstellar politics forever. But first, The Alliance commanders would have to listen to what the humans had to say. The greatest military force in galactic history had been assembled to face human aggression. Instead, they were about to discover something far more dangerous than weapons or warships. They were about to encounter human diplomacy. The shuttle bay of the Eternal Glory hummed with activity as alien security forces prepared for the human arrival. Admiral Rothenham had ordered maximum security protocols. Energy shields covered every entrance. Armed guards stood at attention in perfect formation. Scanning devices swept the area repeatedly, searching for any hidden threats. Captain Lisa Parker stepped out of the human shuttle with quiet confidence. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decoration, carrying only a small data pad and a translator device. Her movements were calm and measured, showing no fear despite being surrounded by heavily armed aliens. Behind her came 6 other humans. Dr. Kevin Walsh carried a large case filled with scientific instruments and data storage devices. Dr. Susan Miller held a collection of historical documents and treaty papers. Commander Tony Rodriguez walked with military precision, his eyes constantly scanning the area around them. The alien guards watched the humans with intense curiosity. These were the creatures that had expanded across a dozen star systems in just a few months. They looked surprisingly ordinary. No visible weapons, no threatening postures, no signs of the aggressive nature that had alarmed the Galactic Council. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Glory," said Admiral Rothenham as he approached the human delegation. His tall frame towered over the visitors, golden skin gleamed under the shuttle bay lights. "I am Fleet Admiral Rothenham of the Celestial Republic." "Captain." Parker offered a slight bow of respect. "Thank you for receiving us, Admiral. I am Captain Lisa Parker, representing the United Human Government. We are honored by this opportunity to address the Galactic Council." The formal pleasantries continued as the humans were escorted through the massive starship. Alien crew members stopped their work to stare at the visitors. Many had never seen humans before. The stories they had heard described a warlike species with advanced technology and aggressive tendencies. These humans seemed almost disappointingly normal. The council chambers were enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. The human delegation was led to a small platform in the center of the room, surrounded by tiers of seats filled with alien officials. The lighting was dim, casting long shadows across the assembled crowd. Admiral Zektar sat with his forearms crossed, yellow eyes studying the humans with obvious suspicion. Commander Velasha leaned forward in her chair, silver eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. Science Director Quintal made rapid notes on her datapad, documenting every detail of the human appearance and behavior. "You may begin," Admiral Rothenham announced from his position at the head of the council table. Captain Parker looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. When she spoke, her voice was clear and strong, carrying easily through the large space. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, "we come before you today not as conquerors, but as neighbors. The human expansion that has caused such concern was never intended as an act of aggression against any member of this alliance." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. This was not what they had expected to hear. Where were the justifications for military conquest? Where were the demands for territorial recognition? Dr. Susan Miller stepped forward, activating a holographic display device. Images filled the air above the human delegation, showing detailed maps and statistical data. The worlds that humans have occupied were not conquered through military force, Dr. Miller explained. They were liberated from conditions that violated every principle of galactic law and basic decency. The first image showed a planet called Kepler 442b. The official records listed it as a neutral mining world with a small population of voluntary workers. The human documentation told a very different story. This world was home to over 2 million sentient beings, Dr. Miller continued. They were not voluntary workers. They were slaves, forced to mine valuable minerals for the benefit of off-world masters. Their children were born into bondage. Their lives were considered property. The aliens in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Several representatives from the Vorthak Empire looked particularly disturbed by these revelations. Slavery had been officially banned by galactic law for over 3 centuries. Dr. Kevin Walsh activated his own display, showing before and after images of the liberated world. The contrast was shocking. Previously, the planet had been covered with massive mining operations and crowded worker camps. Now it showed rebuilt cities, restored forests, and thriving communities. The human liberation of Kepler 442b freed over 2 million people, Dr. Walsh explained. They were provided with medical care, education, and the opportunity to build new lives. Many chose to remain on their homeworld. Others requested transport to different systems where they could start fresh. More images appeared, showing similar situations on other worlds. Industrial planets where workers lived in terrible conditions. Agricultural worlds where entire populations were forced to grow food for distant markets. Research facilities where sentient beings were used as test subjects for dangerous experiments. Commander Tony Rodriguez stepped forward to address the military aspects of the human operations. Our forces encountered resistance on 7 of the 12 worlds. In each case, the opposition came from private security forces employed by the exploiting corporations, not from legitimate planetary governments. The tactical displays showed the battles that had taken place during the liberation campaigns. Human ships had engaged mercenary fleets and corporate security forces. The fighting had been brief but decisive, with minimal casualties on both sides. We took great care to avoid harm to civilian populations, Rodriguez continued. Our primary objective was always the protection of the oppressed peoples, not the destruction of property or infrastructure. Admiral Zektar's forearms moved restlessly as he processed this information. His own species had been involved in several of the mining operations on the liberated worlds. The Vorthak Empire had purchased minerals from those facilities for decades, never questioning the source of the cheap labor. Commander Velasha leaned forward in her chair. Even if we accept your claims about these liberation operations, that does not explain your military buildup. Our intelligence reports show massive increases in human fleet strength. Captain Parker nodded, as if she had been expecting this question. The fleet expansion was necessary to protect the liberated populations and provide humanitarian aid across a wide area. Many of the so-called warships you detected are actually hospital ships, supply vessels, and transport craft. Dr. Walsh activated another set of displays, showing the actual composition of the human fleet. The images revealed that most of the vessels were indeed civilian in nature. Medical ships equipped with advanced surgical facilities. Transport vessels designed to move refugees to new homes. Supply ships carrying food, medicine, and construction materials. We have built more combat vessels as well, Captain Parker admitted, but they serve a defensive purpose. The corporations and criminal organizations that profited from the slave labor have not given up easily. They have hired mercenaries and pirates to attack our relief convoys. The evidence was overwhelming. Document after document showed the true nature of the human expansion. Liberation rather than conquest. Protection rather than exploitation. Cooperation rather than domination. Science Director Quintal spoke for the first time since the presentation began. Why did you not bring these matters to the attention of the Galactic Council? We have procedures for addressing violations of galactic law. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Captain Parker's expression grew more serious as she prepared to answer. We tried, Director Quintal. Human diplomatic representatives filed formal complaints with the Council regarding the conditions on 17 different worlds. Those complaints were filed over a period of 2 years. Dr. Miller activated a new display, showing official correspondence between human diplomats and various council departments. Page after page of reports, requests for investigation, and appeals for action filled the holographic space. Every complaint was either ignored, dismissed, or buried in bureaucratic procedures, Dr. Miller explained. Meanwhile, millions of people continued to suffer in conditions that would horrify any civilized being. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Galactic Council had failed in its most basic responsibility, protecting the Galactic Kukumta, innocent from exploitation and abuse. The humans had taken action only after the official channels had proven useless. Captain Parker's voice carried a note of sadness as she continued. We did not come to your galaxy seeking territory or resources. We came seeking friends and allies in the great work of building a better future. When we discovered the suffering that existed under the protection of galactic law, we could not stand by and do nothing. The human delegation stood quietly as the alien representatives absorbed the information they had presented. The accusations were serious and the evidence was extensive. If the humans were telling the truth, then the Galactic Alliance had unknowingly been protecting some of the worst criminals in the galaxy. But the most disturbing question remained unanswered. If the humans could document such widespread violations of galactic law, what else did they know? And what did they plan to do about it? The council chamber remained silent for several long minutes after Captain Parker finished speaking. The alien representatives stared at the evidence displayed before them, processing the implications of what they had learned. Many looked uncomfortable. Some appeared angry. A few seemed genuinely shocked. Admiral Rothenham was the first to break the silence. His golden skin had taken on a darker shade, a sign of deep emotional distress among his people. These are serious accusations, Captain Parker. You claim that member species of this alliance have been involved in slavery and exploitation on a massive scale. We do not make these claims lightly, Admiral, Captain Parker replied. Every piece of evidence has been verified through multiple sources. We have testimony from thousands of freed individuals. We have financial records showing the flow of profits from these operations. We have communication intercepts proving the involvement of corporate and government officials. Dr. Susan Miller activated a new set of displays. Financial data flowed across the holographic screens, showing complex networks of money transfers between various corporations and government agencies. The numbers were staggering. Billions of credits had been generated through the exploitation of enslaved populations. The Kepler Mining Consortium alone generated over 40 billion credits in profit over the past 5 years, Dr. Miller explained. Those profits were distributed among shareholders from 7 different alliance species. The workers who actually mined the materials received nothing except basic food and shelter. Admiral Zektar's forearms moved in agitation. His yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the financial records. Several of the companies listed were based in Vorthak space. His own government had collected taxes on their profits without questioning their labor practices. Even if we accept your evidence, Zektar said carefully, the proper response would have been to work through established legal channels. You had no right to take military action without authorization from this council. Commander Tony Rodriguez stepped forward to address this challenge. With respect, Admiral, we did work through legal channels. For over 2 years, human diplomats filed complaint after complaint with various council departments. We provided evidence of the violations. We requested investigations. We offered to assist with enforcement actions. A new display showed the human diplomatic efforts in detail. Hundreds of official documents filled the holographic space. Reports to the Council's Human Rights Commission. Appeals to the Enforcement Division. Requests for emergency intervention to protect threatened populations. Every single complaint was either ignored or lost in bureaucratic procedures, Rodriguez continued. Meanwhile, people continued to die. Children were born into slavery. Entire populations lived in conditions that violated every principle of galactic civilization. Science Director Quintal made rapid calculations on her datapad. You claim to have freed over 12 million individuals across the liberated worlds. That number seems impossibly high. Dr. Kevin Walsh activated his medical database. Images of refugee camps and medical facilities appeared in the holographic display. Thousands of beings from dozens of different species were shown receiving treatment and care in human-run facilities. The medical evidence supports our population figures, Dr. Walsh explained. Many of the freed individuals were suffering from malnutrition, disease, and untreated injuries. Our medical teams have treated over 8 million patients in the past 6 months alone. The images were difficult to watch. Malnourished children receiving their first proper meals in years. Adults with work-related injuries finally getting medical attention. Families being reunited after being separated by their captors. Commander Velasha leaned forward in her chair, her silver eyes reflecting the light from the displays. Your liberation campaigns required significant military resources. Our intelligence suggests you have been building warships at an unprecedented rate. Captain Parker nodded. We have expanded our fleet capabilities, but not for the reasons you assume. Most of our new vessels are designed for humanitarian operations, not military conquest. The display changed to show detailed specifications of human ship designs. What the aliens had interpreted as weapons were actually medical facilities, refugee processing centers, and cargo holds for relief supplies. The massive battleships were actually hospital ships capable of treating thousands of patients simultaneously. We also built defensive vessels, Parker admitted. The criminal organizations that profited from the slave trade did not give up their operations peacefully. They hired mercenaries and pirates to attack our relief convoys. We had to protect the people we were trying to help. Admiral Rothenham studied the ship specifications with growing amazement. The humans had created an entire fleet dedicated to humanitarian operations. The scale of their commitment was unlike anything he had seen in 3 centuries of military service. This explains your ship movements and construction programs, he said slowly. But it does not explain why you sent only 1 vessel to face our armada. Surely you must realize that 12,000 warships could destroy your entire fleet. Captain Parker exchanged glances with her team members. This was the moment they had been preparing for. The question that would determine whether the galaxy moved to war or peace. We sent 1 ship, Admiral, because we do not intend to fight. She said simply. We came here to offer you something far more valuable than military victory. The chamber fell silent again. Every alien representative leaned forward, waiting to hear what the humans could possibly offer that would be more valuable than surrender or military conquest. Dr. Amy Foster, who had remained silent throughout the presentation, stepped forward for the first time. She was younger than the other humans, but her eyes held a confidence that commanded attention. We offer you the truth, Dr. Foster said. The complete truth about what is happening in your galaxy, and the opportunity to fix problems that have existed for centuries. She activated a new holographic display that was larger and more complex than anything shown before. It was a 3-dimensional map of the entire galaxy, with thousands of star systems marked in different colors. This is what we discovered during our expansion, Dr. Foster explained. Red systems indicate locations where we found evidence of slavery or exploitation. Yellow systems show areas where similar conditions probably exist, but have not been confirmed. Green systems represent worlds where populations live in freedom and dignity. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs as the aliens saw the display. More than half the galaxy was marked in red or yellow. The scope of the problem was far larger than anyone had imagined. Over 400 star systems show clear evidence of systematic exploitation, Dr. Foster continued. An estimated 50 million sentient beings are currently living in conditions that violate galactic law. The economic value of their forced labor exceeds 2 trillion credits annually. Admiral Zektar stared at the display in horror. Many of the red systems were in Vorthek space or controlled by Vorthek corporations. His people had unknowingly built their prosperity on the suffering of millions of enslaved beings. "How did we not know about this?" he whispered. "Because the system was designed to hide it," Dr. Foster replied. "The exploitation was carried out by private corporations operating in remote systems. They bribed local officials to look the other way. They used complex financial networks to hide the source of their profits. They created false documentation to make their operations appear legitimate." Commander Velash's voice was barely audible. "The Catherian Defense Force has been protecting some of these systems. We thought we were maintaining peace and stability." "You were," Captain Parker said gently. "You were doing exactly what the criminals wanted you to do. They hid behind the protection of legitimate governments while conducting their illegal operations. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Alliance had unknowingly become the protector of the largest criminal enterprise in galactic history. Their own military forces had been used to maintain systems of exploitation that violated everything they claimed to stand for: science." Director Quintal looked up from her calculations. "If your figures are correct, this represents the largest humanitarian crisis in recorded galactic history. The scope of the problem is beyond anything our current institutions can handle." "That is why we are here," Captain Parker said. "Not to fight you, but to work with you. The problems we have discovered are too large for any one species to solve alone. But working together, we can build something better." Dr. Foster's display changed to show a new vision of galactic organization. Systems marked in green spread across the map, representing worlds where all sentient beings lived in freedom and dignity. "This is what we propose," Dr. Foster said. "A new alliance based on cooperation rather than domination. A galaxy where every species has a voice and every individual has rights that cannot be violated." The alien representative sat in stunned silence, absorbing the magnitude of what the humans were proposing. It was not conquest they offered, but transformation. Not the end of galactic civilization, but its rebirth based on principles of justice and equality. But the most shocking revelation was still to come. Captain Parker looked around the council chamber one final time before delivering the information that would change everything. The alien representative sat in tense silence, waiting for her to continue. The weight of galactic history seemed to hang in the air between them. "There is one more thing you need to understand," she said quietly. "We did not send one ship because we are weak or unprepared. We sent one ship because we do not need more." Dr. Amy Foster activated a new holographic display that filled the entire chamber. It was a real-time map of the galaxy showing the current positions of ships from all known species. Blue dots represented Alliance vessels. Red dots showed human ships. The display updated every few seconds as new data arrived from long-range sensors. The aliens stared in amazement as thousands of red dots appeared across the galactic map. Human ships were everywhere, not just in the 12 systems they had officially occupied, but scattered throughout Alliance space in seemingly impossible numbers. "What you are seeing is the true scope of human operations," Dr. Foster explained. "While your attention was focused on our liberation campaigns in the Outer Rim, our people have been quietly establishing a presence in virtually every star system in the galaxy." Admiral Rothenham leaned forward in his chair, golden skin gleaming to the chamber lights. "That is impossible. Our sensors would have detected such a massive deployment." "Not if we were not trying to hide," Captain Parker replied with a slight smile. Every human vessel you see on this display has been operating openly under the proper diplomatic and commercial permits. We filed all the necessary paperwork. We followed all established protocols. We even paid the required fees. The display zoomed in on various sectors, showing human ships engaged in different activities. Merchant vessels traded goods at major commercial stations. Research ships worked alongside alien scientists on joint exploration missions. Diplomatic couriers carried messages between different governments. Medical ships provided emergency aid. To disaster areas. Commander Velasha studied the tactical implications with growing amazement. You have achieved strategic deployment without firing a single shot. Your ships are positioned to monitor or influence every major shipping lane, communication hub, and resource center in Alliance space. But that was never our primary objective, Dr. Kevin Walsh interjected. We came to learn, to help, and to build relationships. The strategic advantages were simply a natural result of our efforts to be good neighbors. The display changed to show the human aid operations that had been conducted over the past year, refugee rescue missions and war-torn systems, medical assistance during plague outbreaks, emergency food deliveries to planets suffering from natural disasters, engineering support for infrastructure repairs on dozens of worlds. Your people have been involved in humanitarian operations throughout Alliance space, Science Director Queitel observed. Many of these missions were officially sponsored by our own governments. We responded to every request for assistance, Captain Parker confirmed. When the Rigel colony was struck by earthquakes, human engineering teams helped rebuild their cities. When the plague outbreak threatened the Centauri system, our medical ships provided vaccines and treatment. When pirates attacked civilian transports in the Vega sector, our patrol vessels helped restore security. Admiral Zektar's arms moved restlessly as he processed this information. His own military had requested human assistance on several occasions. The humans had responded quickly and effectively, asking for nothing in return except the opportunity to help. You have been building alliances, he said slowly. Not through conquest or intimidation, but through service and cooperation. Every species, every world, every individual we have helped becomes part of a growing network of mutual support, Dr. Foster explained. We do not seek to control or dominate. We seek to connect and strengthen. The holographic display showed the results of these efforts. Communication networks that linked previously isolated colonies. Trade routes that brought prosperity to remote systems. Research partnerships that accelerated scientific discovery. Cultural exchanges that promoted understanding between different species. This is why we sent only one ship, Captain Parker said. We do not need to threaten or coerce. We have already built the relationships that matter. We have already demonstrated our values through our actions. Commander Tony Rodriguez stepped forward to address the military implications. If this alliance chooses to attack us, we will defend ourselves and our friends. But we hope it will not come to that, because there is so much more we could accomplish working together. The display changed to show potential future scenarios. One path showed continued conflict, with devastating losses on all sides, and the galaxy descending into chaos. The other path showed cooperation, with combined resources leading to unprecedented prosperity and progress. The choice is yours, Captain Parker said to the assembled representatives. You can try to maintain the old system, with all its hidden corruption and exploitation. Or you can join us in building something better. Dr. Susan Miller activated a final set of documents. These were detailed proposals for reforming galactic governance, complete with constitutional frameworks, enforcement mechanisms, and transition procedures. We propose a new galactic federation based on the principles of consent, cooperation, and mutual respect, Dr. Miller explained. Every species would have an equal voice in decisions that affect them. Every individual would have rights that cannot be violated by any government or corporation. The proposed system was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of powerful species dominating weaker ones, decisions would be made through consensus and cooperation. Instead of hidden exploitation, all economic activities would be transparent and regulated. Instead of military force maintaining order, justice would be enforced through collective action. Admiral Rothenham studied the proposals with the eye of someone who had spent centuries working within the current system. These reforms would require fundamental changes to how our governments operate. Many established interests would resist such changes. Change is never easy, Captain Parker acknowledged. But the alternative is to continue protecting a system that allows millions of people to suffer in slavery while criminals profit from their misery. The chamber fell silent as the alien representatives considered their options. The evidence was overwhelming. The current system had failed in its most basic responsibility to protect the innocent. The humans offered a path towards something better, but it would require admitting past failures and accepting fundamental changes. Science. Director Quintal was the first to speak. The research benefits alone would justify this new approach. The scientific discoveries we could make through true cooperation would advance all our civilizations by centuries. Commander Velashin nodded slowly. The security advantages are equally compelling. A galaxy where all species work together would be far more stable than our current system of competing power blocks. But Admiral Zektar remained skeptical. How? Do we know the humans will not eventually seek to dominate this new federation? They have already demonstrated superior strategic thinking and organizational ability. Captain Parker met his gaze directly. Because domination was never our goal. We did not come to your galaxy seeking territory or tribute. We came seeking friends and partners in the great work of building a better future for all sentient beings. The vote, when it came, was closer than many expected. Some species voted immediately in favor of the human proposals. Others required lengthy debates and consultations with their home governments. A few remained opposed to any changes in the existing system, but in the end, the evidence was too strong to ignore. The current system had allowed widespread slavery and exploitation to flourish under the protection of galactic law. The humans offered not just criticism of the old ways, but concrete proposals for building something better. The final tally was 12 species in favor of the new federation, 3 opposed and 2 abstaining. It was enough to begin the transformation that would reshape galactic civilization. As the council session ended, Admiral Rothenham approached Captain Parker with a mixture of admiration and concern. You have won a great victory today, Captain. But implementing these changes will be far more difficult than proposing them. Captain Parker smiled. We know it will not be easy, Admiral. But we also know it is possible. Every freed slave, every rescued refugee, every species that chooses cooperation over conflict, proves that sentient beings can choose to do better. The fleet that had assembled to stop human expansion became the escort for a new beginning. 12,000 warships that had come to enforce the old order became the protectors of a new vision of galactic civilization. And it all began with a single question that had terrified the Alliance. Why did the humans only send one ship? The answer was simple. Because one was all they needed to change everything.